Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. You ready for another episode of My Bigfoot Sighting? Alright then, let's do this.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, love's in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah.
If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to MyBigfootSighting.com.
My Bigfoot Sightings is why I started the Montana, Idaho Bigfoot Research Group. It was formed 4 years ago. I had an original sighting in 1978, a full-body sighting of a Bigfoot at 50 yards coming out of an alpine lake. But when I was younger, being in the mountains, I spent a lot of time in the mountains alone, hunting, trapping, fishing, camping. There were things that would take place I didn't understand. I'd get glimpses of something moving off, walking upright, extremely large, and it didn't register at that time what I was looking at. And then through the years, I've always wondered just what it was. And my interest really intensified when people started asking me about Bigfoot, if I'd be willing to come into certain areas here in Montana to actually do the field research, which I did, started 4 years ago. We met up on a place in the Swan. And on that one, that first trip, it was an interesting trip to the point where something had woken the wife up smelling the window where she was sleeping in the motorhome. We have a Class A motorhome. So the window is off the ground quite a ways. It woke her up. She didn't wake me up. But during that time, we captured a video of a juvenile Bigfoot that actually came into the camp. It was standing by a small Jeep I had. The next morning I went out and I measured from where she had pointed to the window to the ground was at 9.5 feet, which put a creature well over 10.5, maybe 11 foot tall. She heard it walk away, real heavy footsteps. Now, every time we go into this area, generally something does happen. Vocalizations, fresh tree breaks. We have found scat, which I did send off to 4 DNA labs, and we did get the results back, and they come back as an unknown primate, which can be controversial, which is understandable. To me and others in this field that I deal with, we firmly believe that Bigfoot is actually an evolving primate, just like humans are. We come out of the trees, and we learn, as our brains and craniums got larger, we learn to adapt to the environment, and we learned how to use tools, how to use fire. Bigfoot is at pre-stage of that development. It does have a form of communication. A lot of us feel that the rock knocks that they do is actually a primitive form of Morse code that they know. We don't. We develop Morse code for the telegraph and everything to be able to send messages over. And all of this is speculation or theory. Nothing can be proven at this time. And all we can try and do is do the best research we can do, get the evidence, talk to the people that live in the areas that are having encounters or having problems on their properties. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You start putting the pieces together. There's so much to learn about this bipedal creature. How can something like that survive so long without really being recognized? And if you listen to the Native Americans and that, and I do talk to Native Americans, I do interview them, Bigfoot was already here when they arrived in North America. the first people. So they have a history and a culture of Bigfoot. If you look at pictographs, totems, in their legends, their stories, Bigfoot is there. It has always been with them. For them, it's a very spiritual animal. It's a guardian of the mountains. It speaks for those that can't speak. And you have to respect their outlook about Bigfoot. And talking to people that have encounters, and I'm talking about Forest Service, Fish and Game, law enforcement, respectable hunters, guys out fishing, floating rivers, hikers, campers that have come in contact with this creature. And I said before that I'd been around it but not recognized what it was at that time. I was much younger. I used to run a winter trap line at a place called Gold Creek. It's up off the Blackfoot River here in western Montana. Back then, I didn't have snowmobiles. I had what's called a modified Alaska Trail. My trap line was 20 miles round trip. It would take most of the day just go the first 10 miles setting traps or checking them. And then I'd bed down that night under a big spruce and I'd come back by Gold Creek itself on the beaver ponds. I had to run my line. I come back to Missoula, then went back up. The next morning I went out, it snowed heavy. My first coyote set, the only thing there was the head in the conibear trap. The body was gone. The footprints in the snow were large, but we had 6-7 inches of snow on top of it. I never thought about brushing the snow out of one of those tracks. Every trap after that was destroyed on the coyote line. When I come back along the Gold Creek itself, my beaver traps had been pulled out of the water up where you'd see where it had broken the ice to get them out of the water. There would be beaver hair on them, but the beavers were gone. Something took those. Something pulled the body off of that coyote and left the head. Was it Bigfoot? That's the only thing capable of doing that. At that time of year, the bears are in hibernation. Mountain lions are generally in the lower land away from the deep snow. You might have bobcats and lynx, but they're not capable of doing stuff like that. And it's just been a quest since then to really learn about it. I do a lot of online research. And the first reporting of a Bigfoot was 966 AD with Leif Erikson in Newfoundland. He describes a large, hairy, smelly, man-like creature that was very aggressive towards them. Now, following that in 1629, a Spanish explorer ordered by the King of Spain to travel the western side of South America and North America, he writes in his book when he got into the Pacific Northwest of a large, hairy, man-like creature they had seen from the boat that was walking along the shore. So we're getting back into history here where there has been sightings. The Paiute Indians in Utah, Arizona, and that talk about the war they had with the red, hairy giants, that they were coming stealing the women, children, horses, and eating them. And they eventually overcame these creatures. By legend, they had walled them up inside of a cave. And that problem was over. But there's also histories of conflict out of the Pacific Northwest with Bigfoot and the Native Americans there battling. Bigfoot can be very aggressive. Why, we don't know. I'll give you 2 instances. I was in St. Mary's doing a night research on my son's property. I'm standing there. There's 3 of us, my son, a friend Josh, and myself. Josh and I was standing next to each other. We had a log thrown between us, a small log. It come out of nowhere. Put it away as you walk away and you leave the area. For some reason, that Bigfoot did not like us being there, and it let us know. Now, this last trip up in the Swan, one night there was a beautiful, loud vocalization about 65 yards from camp. The following night, and this is the first time it's ever happened, something was thrown at the big motorhome. It had never happened before. I've never had aggressions from Bigfoot up there. Now, I contributed to several factors. Who was with me? Two individuals, I won't say their names, it's not important, but they had dogs, and they let the dogs run wild. I feel Bigfoot took offense to that. So the next morning, my daughters had come up with a friend. We tore the camp down, and I left the area out of courtesy. I will be returning there to try to make amends. Before, I never had a problem with Bigfoot. Sides of the motorhome, you'd actually see handprints where they were looking in the window while I was sleeping, the rear windows. So throughout my life, they've always been there. That sighting coming out of Crystal Lake was totally unexpected. I'd been fishing. We're allowed 20 brookie trout in these alpine lakes. So I'd fished pretty much all day. I got my limit. It was a cool afternoon. I was coming out and I could hear a log being tore apart down below this old mining road. So I went down. I just kept walking, but I was cautious because I had seen bear scat. Now, the creel I was carrying had fish in. The wind was blowing down the road. So if a bear would come up, it would smell the fish. What walked up on that road wasn't a bear. It was a creature around 8.5 foot tall. When it stopped, it looked at me, had long arms, a barrel chest, more of a rounded head than conical, a flat nose, protruding eyebrow. Mouth was partly open. You could see the 4 fangs. The legs were extremely muscular. And it crossed, stopped, went up the bank, a steep bank, then it paralleled the road, above me, to this behind me. And that's when I could smell it. It had a decaying, rotten, stinky, skunky, moldy smell. It's a smell you never forget. Well, prudence says you get moving, but you don't want to run because it's Bigfoot's an apex predator. You run, your game. So I just started walking away back towards my rig, and down the road a little bit, I stopped and I dropped 4 trout on the ground and I put a stack of rocks, left and come home. 2 days later, a friend and I went in, and when I got to the rocks, there was a 4th rock on top of the 3, and under the 4th rock was a feather. When we got to the lake, you could feel you were being watched. When we come out, you felt you were being followed. You didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything, but it's a sense. When I got to the rocks, I dropped 4 more fish and just continued down the trail. My friend never said anything. He didn't say a word about if he saw anything or what was taking place. Almost all encounters are by accident. I've got photographs of me and my daughter walking when I had set up a trail cam through this small meadow. And then there's nothing. The third one's the one that catches everybody's eyes. There's 2 Bigfoot standing in the trees, a mature one and a juvenile, and possibly a third one, maybe a female. We firmly believe Bigfoot does have a family unit. It has a territory, and it will defend that territory. That may be one reason why a lot of them do get aggressive. We feel around if the female has bred, is giving birth as a newborn, like any other animals, they do become more aggressive to protect the baby. And that could be a reason for a lot of the aggression of Bigfoot, especially in the spring. Now, people talk about Bigfoot taking people. We have places in Montana, the Beartooth Mountains, it's a good example. A lot of people come up missing there, and they don't know why. The most recent, according to the deputy sheriff I know, was a young woman come up missing. They couldn't find her. 3 days later, they went back in. They found her. According to the coroner and everything, something had put a large boulder on top of her, basically crushed her underneath that boulder. It wasn't a rock slide. So anytime we do go in the field looking for Bigfoot, we have to be aware that he could be aggressive. And I don't like to take weapons into the field because I feel, and others do, that Bigfoot can sense when you're carrying a weapon. And that may in turn make him aggressive. Bigfoot is curious about us. And you'll get a lot of reports, and it's happened to us. You build a campfire, you're sitting around talking, you're laughing. All of a sudden you get a feeling you're being watched. He's in the woods. You don't see him. He's watching you. He's curious. What are you doing? What are you about? Bigfoot will mimic. He's known to mimic animals. Birds, his favorite is a screech owl. When he does mimic a screech owl, it sounds like it, but it's not. His coyote, a yelp, sounds like a coyote, but it's not. There are reports, and it hasn't happened to me yet, and I hope it does, that they'll be cracking up jokes and people laugh, and all of a sudden in the woods they hear a chuckle, like something that's laughing with a real deep laugh, which shocks everybody because there's nobody there but them. I never know when I'm out there doing this field research exactly what's going to happen. One trip up there, I stepped out of the motorhome. There was that smell, that rotten, decaying, skunky, stinky, moldy smell was in there, and it hung around the camp for 3 hours. Somewhere around the camp, there was a Bigfoot standing watching. And these are the things that catch you off guard because you don't expect it. Being out, you hike into an area to do something, and when you come back, there are trees pushed over the trail that you have to walk around. They weren't there when you went in. I've had it happen in my four-wheel drive going into an area to do research. When I come out, there's been trees thrown across the road. I always carry a chainsaw, which is helpful to cut them out of the way. Is it a warning? Possibly. I've come across structures, X's, broken branches, possible nests that aren't human-made. These are in areas that people generally don't go into. I'm an adventurous person. I will go into these areas. I do prospect for gold. So areas I do go in, you sometimes prospecting, all of a sudden you get a rock thrown in the water by you. You feel you're being watched as you're prospecting. Or you'll have pebbles thrown at you, and you don't see nothing. Where are they coming from? If you're the only person there, it only leads to speculation of one thing, that's Bigfoot. Now, in my research in the Congo jungles of Africa, there is a bipedal primate that just made an appearance. It's actually letting the scientists study him. So hopefully we'll have results from them pretty soon. And I just got a report in the Amazon River Basin, another bipedal primate. This has all been coming out. But people have to realize every year they're discovering new species of primates and other animals. Look at the ocean, how much new species they find in the ocean. It's no different than on land. Animals they thought went extinct or actually didn't go extinct. They retreated into very remote areas. Now, as human encroachment and development take place, we are getting into these areas. These encounters are becoming more frequent. I mean, I get reports all over the world, all over Montana. I'm now talking to a couple east of Billings, Montana. Every time they go to this area, they feel they're being watched. They have rocks thrown at them, rocks thrown in the water. They don't see what's doing it. If nobody's around, what's the logical explanation? We as Bigfoot researchers are going to look at it as, hey, it's a Bigfoot. It's an area I need to get to. I just got reports out of the Oxbow, which is up in the Yak River area in northwestern Montana, of several encounters of a Bigfoot along the Yak River. It's hard for me to go every place that there's been reports. Right now, I am documented through law enforcement and all that at 495 sightings of Bigfoot throughout Montana. A lot more than what you see on these maps. And I'm in the process of actually making a map with all these reports. Some areas like Browning, Montana on the reservation, Bigfoot's very active. Graveyards, for some reason, Bigfoot is attracted to graveyards. And most of the times he goes there at night. Is it something about people that passed away that he's attracted to? We don't know what Bigfoot does with those that die. Does he bury them? Is it cannibalistic? Does it eat it? We don't know. You don't find the bones. And I'll give you a good example. Giant Pithecus. The size of that giant ape of China is based on several molars and just fossilized bones. It's hard to dictate just how big an animal is based on few fossils. Now, everybody used to say there's never any primates in North America. Wrong. Last summer in northern Canada, they found small primate fossils. A basin in Wyoming, they found large primate fossils. We had primates in North America. And we're looking at a time like the Stoic period where all mammals were extremely large, the beavers, the oxen. And as the climate and environment changed, a lot of animals downsized to where we have like our beaver today, or the alligator, crocodiles from prehistoric time are much larger. But as environmental change took place, the warming or whatever, glacial rifts, everything changed. And animals adapted to it. Those that couldn't did survive. And that's one reason I think giant Pithecus went extinct is it could not adapt to the environmental change there. It's highly possible. All of this is speculation and theory. It's hard to prove something that you can't really spend time with. Another good example is a mountain gorilla in Africa. It was a legend, the hairy men in the rainforest, until it was finally spotted and finally documented, I believe it was in 1965. And it's a separate species of gorilla. Yet here's a legend that is actually real. And there's been extensive study. Jane Goodall has studied it. I think Maria Manor has studied the mountain gorilla. They're the experts in the primates, the chimpanzees, the gorillas. Expedition Bigfoot, they're on the right track. To me, they don't spend enough time in a given area. For us, if it's an active area, we continue to return to the same area. Because eventually we're going to get what we're looking for. Now, this last trip, we found more scat. Our samples have gone out to the 4 labs. I'm just waiting for the results. 2 guys were sitting by the campfire. I was in the motorhome. I have a handheld thermal unit. He scanned behind him. The thermal image he picked up is shocking. I sent it to my analyst. He was puzzled by it. It's not a heat signature from the tree. He's able to slow the video down. It's something between 10.5 and 11 foot tall, peeking around the tree at them. He had 3 other analysts look at that, and they all agreed it's not the heat signature of the tree. It's a large creature. It's not a bear by that tree. The thermal images on the ground could be small animals or could be the heat signature from it walking. But there's definitely something there. This is what makes it fascinating. You don't know what you're going to come across. I would have never thought of swinging that handheld thermal unit around the camp. Now I will be at night because 100 yards, it picked up a heck of a thermal image. So I know we got that range. And Brian didn't know you could actually zoom the lens to get a closer picture of it because he was just learning how to use it. We try new research methods. The next one is we're actually going to be using solar-powered motion detectors, and they'll have trail cams. And each of the lights has 72 LEDs. So if something triggers those motion detectors, it's going to light the area up. The trail cams will capture in color, whether video, photograph, whatever it is. You've got to realize, I've caught elk, deer, moose, wolves, and it finally took 3 years to get a bird on the trail cam. So there's no guarantee you're going to catch anything. Your placement of the trail cams is important, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be there. And that's why you keep going back and doing the research and trying to understand what you're seeing. I have a 10 by 30 gazebo I set up. We have power to it. I have a microscope that plugs into my laptop with a camera on. I can examine any hair sample come in. I put together 21 hair samples that I compare hair in the field to. And that includes bear hair and all that. So if it doesn't match any of these 21, what is it? What did it come off of? And we're really important looking at the hair follicle because that's where the DNA will be. We will be getting into taking water samples and that for environmental DNA, the eDNA, and getting those sent off. So for us, it's a progression of learning. And when people talk about they want to start field research, they don't realize the investment it takes just to get the basic equipment. Plus, you have to understand the area you're going into here. Montana, western Montana, is a rugged area. We have big mountains. This freak weather we've had is driving everybody nuts. It just got done snowing 12 to 14 inches up on the mountains. Rain in the valley. While we're in the Swan, we had 2 nice days out of 11 days. It rained every day at night. So you have to look at adverse weather. So there, you're not going to go in the field doing research so you don't get wet. I won't. And I don't expect anybody with me to do the same. So what we're going to do is try to draw them into the base camp, around the base camp. I plug a nice stereo, I put music on in hopes that we can draw them in. But I also learned from 2 experiences, if somebody has a negative attitude or there's something negative about them, Bigfoot doesn't come around. He can sense the negativity. When they leave, Bigfoot shows up. He comes around, you know it, you can feel it. There's just a sense that you know he's there watching you. But negative people, no, they won't come around. The other thing we know, there's high probability that Bigfoot travels in a family unit. The mature male may have the baby, a young one with him, a yearling, we call it. On teepees and that, I've come across big teepees, 8, 9, 10, 11 feet tall, built in a tree, but yet on the ground there's a small teepee, which tells me a juvenile Bigfoot is mimicking the adult Bigfoot. They'll build a nest. Also, you see a little nest. The young learn through the adults, just like the bear, a deer. All animals learn through the adults. And I don't feel it's any different with Bigfoot. The young have to learn. He is a predator. He's known to pick up roadkill. He's known to ambush deer. He will actually build an ambush site. And it's along a main game trail. It's like logs put up. Depending on which direction the wind is blowing, he'll be on the opposite side, so the wind's blowing towards him. So any game coming down the trail won't see him. He'll ambush him. Most all edible plants that deer and that eat bears eat, Bigfoot's going to eat. Cattail roots, rose hips, huckleberries, blueberries, strawberries, wild onions, things like that. There are mushrooms and stuff that they'll eat. We eat it, they eat it. If you watch deer, when they're eating, shaggy manes, they like shaggy manes. And as soon as you pick a shaggy mane, you can't pick it when it's purple, it's poisonous. But when they first come out of the ground, they're a ball, and they grow into a nice shaggy mane. Those things are excellent sauteed in garlic and butter. Bigfoot's going to feed on them. So does deer, so do bear. Puffball, before it turns to seed, is a solid thing. It's edible. To the point we can eat it ourselves. So any area we go into, we're looking at what kind of food source could Bigfoot be taking. Now, in the early spring in the streams here in Montana, the trout and the silver salmon all spawn, the rainbow trout and the kokanee salmon. That's a natural food source for them. I have come across primitive fish traps in remote areas that are in use. You see them, you don't want to mess with them. Something just tells you to leave it alone. But it catches you by surprise because it has to be an intelligent animal to build something like this, even being primitive. There are structures been built, the branches are actually woven together. Why? You see, that's smart, that advanced. I believe he is. I think he's more advanced than we realize. They have their own form of language, it's their communication. They have a way of alerting each other. They have a way of building nests, warning structures. Another thing to watch for in the mountains, if you ever come across a deer skull in a tree and there's an X by it, leave the area. It's a definite warning. You're not welcome. These are the things you learn. You don't learn it overnight. This is years of being in the mountains. Anything that you're not normal is to you, you have to look at if it's not normal, what you're used to seeing. And this is what Bigfoot research is about. We're looking for that things that are not normal, what we're used to seeing. It's those little things. Like a hair on a log. And they're hard to see, but all of a sudden you see one. You'd walk right by it without knowing it. Scat. You think, oh, that's bear scat, and then you realize it's not bear scat. It's bigger. It's more firm. Bear scat, depending on what they're eating, generally is in a pile. These aren't in a pile, they're actually laid out on the ground. Does Bigfoot pop up? We have a hair thing. It's been sent out to find out. It looks like a hairball. It was close to where this scat was found. Is it from Bigfoot? I don't know. We won't know until the test results back, and that's probably in about 3 months. So everything we do, that I do, is I'm trying to teach people what I've learned, the experiences I'm having while in the field or when I was younger. It's hard sometimes to describe what you see without being there. And I make a mistake a lot of times. I don't carry a camera. Now I have to have a cell phone because my heart in that. So now I can start taking pictures. I do have a Nikon 35 millimeter digital that takes fantastic pictures. On it, you have to put it on a tripod as a photophotic lens. You can take a clear picture of something at 10 miles. It's like it's right in front of you. We set that up. We look through that. And we watch open areas in that. And so far, we haven't caught anything on that camera. Most everything's been on trail cams. We try to have a minimum of 10 trail cams out in the field at any given time. We have 4 around the camp, 6 in the field. I'm increasing that to 15 trail cams this year. The more we can get out there, and we leave them. Once we set up a trail cam, we don't go back into that area. I don't want pictures of you or anybody on that trail cam, but deer, elk, moose, possibly a Bigfoot. That's critical, and it's hard to get people that come to the field to understand that. Once they're set, stay out of the area. There's other areas we can do our field research in. I have areas we do night research in that generally I'll lead that because I have the experience in the mountains. And these are new areas for a lot of the people. So I'm not going to turn them loose out there. But everything you do, like I do, is I'm trying to recall from my youth what I was seeing, what I was smelling. Why is this thing so different than that? When you know it's not a bear, mountain lion, badger, or anything, something did it. Something made that. We have reports, and I've come across this twice myself. Black bears. One was a mature male, had its neck broke. All the ribs had been crushed. The second one was a cub, same thing. The ribs, neck had been broken, and the ribs were crushed. One of his hindquarters was missing. Now, we just got reports, and one of my guys I do podcasts talked to a woman in the Bob Marshall. They're finding grizzly bears in the same condition. neck's broken. The body's basically beat to a pulp. What's killing him? The Fish and Game doesn't know. There's nothing capable of killing that big of an animal. You're talking an animal might weigh 1,500 pounds or more. It's quite capable of killing a grizzly or a black bear. It definitely can kill you if it wants to. So these are the things, you have to be aware of. And as the years go by and the more research that I get into, I have more questions than answers. Every field research trip I take, I end up with more questions than answers. Some of it I can answer, most of it I can't. So every trip, it's like, if I can answer some of these questions that I have, it's like, what built that? Where did that sound come from? Where did that rock come from? What threw it? This is the particulars that you get into in field research. It's the unknown. And you don't know what you're going to encounter. I've got a video of a large silver object in the base camp behind the motorhome. Campfire's reflecting off of. Nobody knows what it is. My analyst has no idea what it is. It's hovering just at tree line. What is it? I'm not saying it's a UFO, but there's something there that doesn't make sense. That one morning we woke up and the back of the motorhome had a fog. That's the only place it had the fog, was that back corner of that motorhome. What caused that? No place else was there a fog. These are the things that are puzzling, and you're trying to figure out what's causing it. Oh, why did that Bigfoot that night come up to the window and smelling the wife while she was sleeping? What made him do that? What made the juvenile come into the base camp? And you can tell it's very nervous about being in the base camp. It looks right at the trail camp. Now I have photographs from St. Mary and my boys' property. There's 3 photographs. The first one was the first trip. It's something black trying to avoid the trail cam. I try to set trail cams at 7 to 8 foot off the ground. Now, these 2 photos are unique. It actually has a large Bigfoot standing in front of the trail cam. You can see the massive shoulder, the neck. You can't see the head. The next one's the most intriguing. He's actually pointing at the trail cam, and if you enlarge the photo, which I have on Facebook, I do have a group on Facebook. It's the Montana, Idaho Bigfoot Research Group, and everybody's welcome to join. Just answer the questions. My people there, a lot of them are doing field research. Anyway, back to this photo. You can actually see its fingernail. If you enlarge it, you can see where it's cracked on the side. Just how big that index finger is. He's pointing at the camera. He's not scared of it. All cameras, majority of them, when they go off, they have a light that flashes. It's a natural attractor. The deer see it. You can see it in the videos. The elk see it and all that. Bigfoot's going to see it. Do they make a sound? I don't know. I've never heard the trail cam make a sound. Just a flashing light. So they know the trail cam's there. Can they cloak? I've never personally seen it. I can't say they don't. I have to base everything on my personal experiences. Are they interdimensional? I don't know. I can only there again base on personal experience. And you hear a lot of people talking about it. I can't say that's not real. That's not how it is. Because I can't give an honest answer to some of these questions. Until I personally witness it, I have an open mind. That's the key. And all of this field research, whether it's online or in the field, you have to have an open mind. You have to be able to accept you're going to see things that don't fit the norm. It's an exciting time, and it can be a scary time at the same time. Because how are you going to react? All of a sudden, he's there in front of you, a 10.5, 11 foot bipedal creature standing there looking at you. How are you going to react? I know how I reacted to my first one. I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And that's a normal response. Was I scared? I don't know. I think it was more shock because it didn't fit what I was used to seeing. I've been around bears, both black bears and grizzlies, all my life. Yes, they can walk upright, only for a short distance. You're talking a bipedal creature that walks upright, period. He can outclimb a mountain that you struggle to climb, and he'll do it in a matter of minutes. And it's the wonder of learning. And not only that, the more you're in the woods, the more you learn about the woods. We have a saying, stop and listen to the forest. It has a story. It will let you know. One of the good indicators here in the mountains is the pine squirrel. If they start sounding off at a distance and they start coming closer and their sound off, that means something's coming. I listened one day and I was watching, and about a mile away, maybe half a mile, a pine squirrel let loose, and all of a sudden it was like a chain reaction. Within 30 minutes, there was a black bear come walking out in the clearing, and it was along the path of those squirrels. The squirrels chatter, sound off when Bigfoot is around. It's possible. One thing we notice, and I've noticed it, the woods go quiet. There is no sound. That doesn't happen even when there's bears around. There's always sound. But when Bigfoot is around, sound. I talk about food. Think about a baby bird in a nest. Any sound near that nest, that little baby bird's going to sound off. I guarantee you Bigfoot's going to eat it. And that's what it's all about. It's trying to understand about something that is so old, it's so known, but unknown. It's like the ocean. We know the depths of the ocean. What does it really pertain? They're always finding new stuff on the deep dives and these submersibles and that. Even our lakes. What's really in the lakes? They talk about Loch Ness, the monster there. Flathead Lake in western Montana has something similar to that is seen. What is it? Nobody knows. They say it's a plesiosaurus. Well, here recently, of the sonar reading, the outline does look like a plesiosaurus. And there's a video taken off a boat. It was on YouTube. It's a plesiosaurus coming out of the water, a small one. Are they still around? Possibly. There was a fish they thought was extinct until it was caught off the coast of Africa. All they ever saw was fossils, but here's a living fossil. And what people have to understand is, you look at the alligator, the crocodile, the turtle, they're all living fossils. The giant crocodiles were 10 times bigger than ones we have today. Our biggest one, the saltwater croc and the Nile croc, were small compared to the prehistoric crocodiles. The turtles were larger, but everything downside due to the environment. As the continents change, the weather changes. Right now, currently in Africa, there's a rift that may eventually, maybe in 1,000 years, will split Africa in two. The big island of Hawaii is another good example of nature. You have the big one south of the big island is an underwater volcano that will eventually break the surface. There'll be a new Hawaiian island. Our continent, Earth, is changing constantly. With our encroachment into remote areas, building homes and everything, recreation, now we're getting into an animal's territory that was safe for them. It's no longer safe. Humans by nature will destroy and not try to understand. And one of our goals of my group, the Montana Idaho Bigfoot Research Group, is the education and to eventually get where we can protect Bigfoot. It's an important part of the ecosystem. We can't destroy something like this. The more you get into it, really, and you see them in that, it's all inspiring. You can hear my voice. It's just even a glimpse of a bipedal creature, 8-9 foot, walking away from you, swinging its arm, might look back at you. The Peterson Gimli film of Patty, as it's walking away, looks back. they'll do the same thing. All those I encountered where I couldn't get a full sight, you could see them turn their head and look back towards me. Now with the new phones we have, I can have my phone with me and start recording and taking photographs. Back then, that was too much weight. Traps are heavy enough. When I was young, hiking the mountains and experiencing this stuff, I had a bedroll. I carried a single shot 22 and ammo, fish hooks in the bedroll, and I'd go up for 3, 4, 5 days in the woods by myself. I'd love the isolation. Even till today, I love the isolation of the mountains. So me being in a base camp doesn't mean anything because I enjoy it. Even when I was younger, I worked for outfitters as their camp cook. There's another one for you. I was in Lion Creek in the Bob Marshall. And it was one we called an Indian summer. Nice, balmy, warm. It wasn't hot. I had just gotten done checking the tack of grain and hay because the outfitter was coming in. And I sat down on this stump. And I had a pine marten I kind of made friends with. So it was running around the tree. I looked up on this snow slide way up on it, and I watched a herd of elk come across that trail. About halfway, they stopped, turned around, and took off running, which I thought was odd. Well, maybe a grizzly bear. Well, walked out on that trail wasn't a grizzly bear. It was a bipedal creature. And I estimated at the distance 10, maybe 11 feet tall. It didn't take long to cross that snow slide. After he crossed, I heard a real loud whoop and then tree knocks. And then up the other behind me, up the canyon, there was tree knocks. There was an answer. So when the outfitter came in, I asked him if he had anything unusual around the camp he had seen. He kind of chuckled. Well, the fish and game warden come in, and Virgil told him, Ken saw the big guy. The fish and game warden started laughing. He said, he's seen a lot. There's a lot of Bigfoot seen in the Bob Marshall. The only way into the Bob Marshall is by foot or horseback. They used to allow mountain bikes. I don't know if they do anymore. When I was younger, the only way in was by foot or horseback. I personally have gone through the Bob Marshall twice on foot. Once out of Pyramid Peak City Lake and the other out of Augusta, Montana, over Gray Butte into the South Fork of the Flathead. Even then, you'd see tree breaks, funny structures, but as a kid, you really don't think about things like that. Would the Bob Marshall be an ideal place to do a 2-week field research? Yes, but you'd have to pack in everything. There you can have no gas-powered equipment. So your firewood and everything has to be cut with a buck saw. The potential's there, but it's also the cost to do it, to get an outfitter to take you and to set up a base camp and then come get you. So we try to do the best we can on the limited resources that we have. Especially when, like myself, I have funded the Montana, Idaho Bigfoot group for 4 years. I've got basically all the field equipment that we need. We use drones, everything. And eventually we'll upgrade a lot of it to something even better, but that takes time. And I want the people to be asking questions. I want people to join the group and aren't afraid to ask questions. Like I said, we have 4 other field researchers from around the country are in that one chat room pretty much all the time. They are doing active field research. We can talk about tracks, what to look for, how to measure a spread or how to estimate the height of a Bigfoot by stride. And the depth in the ground and mud and that there, you can get a rough estimate of how heavy the animal is. A lot of times you don't find more than one track. And that's been a mystery. And some of us, like myself, it depends on the ground. A hard pack, you might catch a track, a footprint, and maybe not another one. I can give you an example. When I lived in Georgia, I bought a home up there. One morning I walked out, the grizzly claw marks everything where it had stepped on the gravel driveway. I could follow it by the scuff marks on the driveway until it got to the asphalt. That was the only clear indicator of a bear, was the size of those claws. And I had my friend who's a game warden look at it. He said, yeah, that was a big grizzly. There are grizzlies in western Montana. They're not isolated just to Glacier Park or Yellowstone. We have grizzlies in the Rattlesnake Drainage, down the Bitterroot, west of us. The grizzlies are there, and so are the black bears. And they're competition for Bigfoot on any kind of food. And a lot of sightings are, like I said before, are by accident. People driving home late at night, all of a sudden it's walking along the road. They see them pick up roadkill, carry it off. A lot of ranchers I talk to in the spring, March, is the calving season. They have calves come up missing that are carried off, they're not drug away. A Navajo rancher in New Mexico, he has the same problem. Something's carrying off sheep. They're not dragging them away. What's capable of carrying off a sheep? It's not a bear or a mountain lion. They'd be a drag mark. It has to be something large and bipedal. And this is where research is important, to try to understand just what is taking place in any given area. Right now, I am concentrating in the swan because for 4 years, something always happens. We find something. We get a photograph. We get the thermal. We find the scat. We get the vocalizations. You'd be standing by Goat Creek and a rock lands in the middle of this creek. Went through it. This is what keeps us going back. But I feel negative people, you get a negative result from Bigfoot. I've never had anything thrown at my motorhome till that night. And I had an incident before, same thing, very negative attitude. Nothing. The minute he left, it all happened. Even the woods, everything changed after he left. But this last one, way of the weather, was time to come home. So we tore camp and I come home, but I will be returning. I don't know if I'll take the motor home, the Class A in, or I'll go in there and do a tent camp. And it's just something I have to do. And maybe it's called making amends to whatever it was that threw that object against the motorhome. But this is all the unknown. And yes, what they show on TV, Expedition Bigfoot, they can show you the basics of field research. There's a lot more to it than what they show. And Maria Meyer, I have nothing but the highest respect for that woman and all them, because they are trying to, but they are limited because it's TV. And they are so much scripted. We who do field research like myself, we're not limited. We're not scripted. We're out there doing it. Walking, taking our time. We move slow. We're looking for that hair. We're looking for that scat, for that footprint, for structures, for tree breaks. Anything that's not normal, we're looking for. And it takes time to cover an area by moving slowly. And that's the only way you're going to find it. This year was the first year we didn't get to use them because of the rain. We're actually going to be using body cams, same as the cops have. So as you're walking, you can be talking about what you're looking at. The body cam's going to capture what you're looking at. We try new things out. We will eventually run across something that will work for us. But until then, you're testing equipment, which is the best. I'm on my third set of trail cams. I keep upgrading the trail cams to something better. And generally, somebody wants to do field research. I take my old field equipment and I give it to them. I don't charge them. I give them the trail cams, the sonic listening devices, and stuff like that, because I want them in the field doing research. All I ask is they send me like the SIM cards and stuff like that, so I can look at it on my computer system. If it warrants, then I send it off to be analyzed. It's not a game when we're out there. And people think, oh, you're just out there for the heck of it. We're not. We're dedicated to finding out just what Bigfoot is. The more we can get in the field, the more we are learning. And that's what it's all about. To build a knowledge base of a bipedal creature that's been around for probably thousands of years. If he was here before the Native Americans crossed that land bridge, you have to look how old that is. And the question arises, like, things. You have to look at it this way. When the Native Americans got into Wyoming and that, the first ones, the medicine wheel in Wyoming was already there. They don't know who built it. You hear of the people before. When the Polynesians, the first island they landed on was Kauai. There's a ditch there called the Menehune Ditch. It's a perfect built ditch. It was already on the island when the Polynesians arrived on Kauai. Who built it? What built it? Like the medicine wheel. Who built it? Bigfoot's been around longer than humans have been on this continent. Did Bigfoot migrate into Asia and spread throughout Asia? I get reports from Russia of the Yamasti, which they're trying to blame for killing the Donovan party that one winter. Who knows? But I'm getting reports from Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Norway, Sweden, of bipedal creatures. The Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, of bipedal creatures. This is worldwide. It's just not North America. And this is where the research gets interesting, when you start getting reports from other places. I never know when I'm going to get an email or a message about an encounter in another country. I can wait, I'll have 2, 3 of them. And I always follow up to talk to the people for more information. And everything is the same thing we're experiencing here. It walks upright. It has vocalization. It has a way it does tree knocks or rocks, builds structures, appears to be omnivorous. I can't really say it. It eats meat, vegetables. It's the same creature, but it's worldwide. It's not a local phenomenon throughout the United States. You hear different names, a skunk ape, grassman. They're all Bigfoot. They're just different names out of different locations of the country. Us, it's Bigfoot. The West Coast is Sasquatch. That's how the natives there refer to. And the other thing to note, when Lewis and Clark was coming to Louisiana Purchase, he was warned by the Mandan Indians and other Indians of the hairy men in the mountain that would steal his horses and eat them. Somewhere in his journal, there's a notation about it. This is part of our history. Daniel Boone, David Crockett, just talked about them killing one. Well, that's true. I haven't really researched it yet, but I will be. And that's what online research is about. You hear about this stuff, you go online, you spend hours looking for it, and you finally find it. A lot of stuff I come across is I'm looking for something else, and I come across different things. That draws me into a whole new area of research. And the biggest thing is having the patience to do it. Even in the field, it's having the patience to do it. I love being in the mountains. So I don't mind going out there, and I have a good group. The ones that do join me that are serious about it, they're out there, whether it's wet or not. They will go in the field and do the research. I don't have to. As the founder of the Montana, Idaho Bigfoot Research Group, I'm there to talk to the game wardens, the Forest Service, people that stop by the base camp and want to know, or I go down to the store, I talk to the locals approaching me about experiences with Bigfoot they've seen or have rocks thrown at their houses, or Bigfoot knocking on the side of their house. It happened to me up in Borgia, the house I bought up there. All of a sudden, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, up high, something would knock on the side of the wall. My wife, after I got married, she finally heard it, and it startled her. You look outside, there's nothing there. What was knocking that high up on the wall? There's only one creature. Up Savanac, you hear tree knocks and you hear vocalizations. One ranch up there, I'm not going to say the owner's name, they've seen Bigfoot walking in the big field. Crystal Lake's across from Dvorak. That's where I had my first encounter, full-on sighting of Bigfoot in 78. It's another active area. And unfortunately, I'm by myself a lot of times, so I can't go everywhere. I have a list of where I need to go, but there's no way I'm going to get to everything this year. But I keep trying. You do the best you can, but it's all about learning. And every research trip I do is a learning experience. You learn more and more and more, and you begin to understand. Here's an animal, a bipedal creature. It has a territory. It will not leave that territory unless there's forest fires or it's driven out by another Bigfoot group. When I was at St. Mary's, they had a lot of vocalization. It sounded aggressive between two units. Bigfoot, we call them units. There was 23 forest fires burning around St. Mary's. Bigfoot was moving. It was going into territory of other Bigfoot. There's going to be a verbal conflict. There's going to be a lot of vocalizations between them to determine dominance. And that's what it's all about. Everywhere you go, I am a strong believer, and many are, that Bigfoot is a family. It's not a solitary creature. Those that you might see solitary might be young, that's gone off to find a mate, a new territory. But the mature ones, they have a territory, and they wander that territory. That's why it's so hard sometimes to pinpoint them when they're going to be in your area of that territory. How big the territory is, we don't know. The only way we could do it is somehow get a tracker on one. And I can't see doing that. There may be a way to do it where it snags on its fur. I've seen that used on Expedition Bigfoot to follow one. That works. I haven't tried it yet here. In our field research. And like I said, I spent 2 weeks in Browning, Montana, talking to the Native Americans, the Blackfeet over there, about their encounters with Bigfoot. And everyone opened up, and they talked about where they've been seen. And they actually pointed the areas out. And you want to listen to these people. They don't trust a lot of us, I'm going to say whites, and there's a reason. But once they begin to trust you, they'll start talking to you. It's all about respect. And once one starts talking, word gets around, and they all start talking to you. When I left Browning, they gave me the name the Bigfoot Man, and I'm welcome back there any time to continue the interviewing. Will I get in the field? Possibly. I don't know yet if I do go back. I've been talking a while. I've given you all a lot to think about. Well, please come visit us on Facebook. It's the Montana, Idaho Bigfoot Research Group. I'm going to call her quits for now, and I'm sure if he wants me to come back and talk again some other time, I'd be more than happy to do that. I want you all to take care, and you all be safe out there. And remember this, we have something very special in this country walking around. It's a bipedal creature. Protect it. You all be safe, and God bless you all.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to MyBigfootSighting.com and let us know. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, loves in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah, the sound of a memory brings me back to the bluegrass playing on my dad's 8-track. It's Pickham and it been through it, getting through the day on Scruggs and Skags, booking a bales to those Tennessee jams. There's no other way that I'd do it. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, style. Those are the anthems drumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Pace of the city life drives me wild. The only tune is the cars rushing by, with the bass on the stereos booming. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards, backwards in double time. Getting in the soul and the tremolo Kentucky style. Those are the anthems drumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Something going backwards, backwards in double time. Getting in the soul and the tremolo Kentucky style. Those are the anthems drumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm, fried chicken, porch swing, mama's best sweet tea kind of sound.